Hey friends, I'm Campbell. It's really great to be here. I have the privilege today of sitting with the Pan family. The Pan family, they are great friends of Studio Classroom, and today we wanted to interview them and hear a little bit about their story. Hello friends, it's great to see you.
Hi.
So, I have heard so much about your whole family. You guys are very accomplished in all of your careers, and it's pretty amazing. I want to start with Panbebe. You are a very successful architect, right? You are the original architect for our Studio Classroom
That's
offices.
correct,
Yeah. What do you feel like is the secret to your success? Big question, I know.
Well, actually, I would credit that to my faith. Growing up in the church.
Yeah.
With very good
Upbringing. Yeah.
Fellowship and all that.
For sure. Yeah, well, we as Christians believe that God is the greatest creator,
That's
right?
correct,
So I'm sure He has given you a lot of inspiration in your career as well. You know, I hear an interesting story that when you were applying for graduate school in the States, you had very many options, but the school you chose actually asked you to take a step back.
That's
right,
right.
and go study a fourth year, and then start again. But that kind of set you back a little bit. Why did you choose to do that versus so many other options you had?
Well, my original degree in Taiwan is Chengkung University, the architecture school, sort of emphasized very much in the engineering part, structure and all that engineering part of the courses. And when I applied for schools, one of the universities, that's Rice University in Houston, they saw my transcript, and they saw that they sort of knew that I was okay as a student.
Yeah.
But they said there are too many engineering courses, not enough humanity courses. And they think that to be a good architect, one should have more humanity courses.
Yeah, it makes sense because architecture is engineering, but it's also very
That's
artistic.
correct, yes.
Yeah, so it's kind of a combination of the creative with the science.
That's right. So they had me. They said if you come to our school, they welcome me, and they'll give tuition free. But then they would recommend that I start from fourth year again.
Yeah.
An architecture school, the complete architecture training is 5 years. So it means that I have to be undergraduate for another 2 years.
Right.
Yes. So, but they asked me to take some courses like art history, and psychology.
Oh wow.
Sociology.
Interesting.
And logic.
Okay.
All those courses.
Yeah.
My English was really not that adequate at that time, because all the reading assignments, like 15 books every week.
Right.
So in the 2 years, I had to really quickly absorb.
Had to work really hard.
A lot of those.
Yeah.
Those things.
So do you feel like that was the right decision for you to take the step back a little bit and then move forward?
Yeah, I think it turns out to be really helpful to me, because I didn't take too much longer than my fellow schoolmates when they're taking others.
Yeah.
They chose other university.
Yeah.
And went for masters.
Right.
Directly.
Yeah.
After Rice, I applied for graduate school.
Yeah.
And Columbia accepted me.
Okay.
So I went to Columbia.
Yeah.
It only took me 9 months to get a master's degree.
Yeah.
So I probably lost only no more than 1 year. The whole
That's
thing.
great.
Yeah.
And that has helped you to establish a very successful career.
Well, that helped me to have a different perspective about architecture. So when I was at Columbia, I chose urban design,
Right.
which also brought me to a lot of different disadvantaged communities in New York City.
Okay.
So
So sometimes it's important to maybe take a step back in order to move forward.
that's right.
Yeah, that's really great. And Professor Sun, I mean, you have had a great career as well, and I mean, you're still teaching right now.
Yes.
You know, most people at your age are retired, you know, but you still choose to continue to teach. Can you share on why you do that?
Well, first of all, most of women of my age is probably watching their grandchildren and doing housework,
Right.
and then probably play around.
Yeah.
But I think since my two girls are abroad, and he is also working, and I think it's better for me also do some work to prevent being dementia.
Yeah. Right. Keep the brain working.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. On the other hand, I think I have so much experience.
Yes.
And I think I would like to share with the young people.
Right.
So, and also because the university offered me a chair professor, an honorary chair professor.
Yeah.
So I have been taking the privilege
Right.
to keep my lab, and I still teach.
Yeah.
And I also have grad students,
Right.
and still do some research.
Yeah.
And so it's, for me, I think it's not only a challenge, but I think it's a privilege.
Yeah.
And so I think I have been called by God to help the young people.
Yeah.
So so I really enjoy working with them and try to stimulate them to have a more passion for their future.
That's amazing. Well, you both have been very successful, but not only that, you've actually raised two successful daughters as well. You know, I have 3 daughters myself, and every day I'm trying to think, okay, what can I do to help them? What can I do to help them? Can you give me some secrets? What did you guys do to raise such successful daughters?
I think the first thing is don't nag.
Okay, don't nag. Got it.
Yeah, and then I think respect them. Well, as long as they are happy and they are not lazy,
Right.
and also if they know God.
Right.
And so even I cannot see them every day, and they are away from me, but I think they are in God's hand. So I can trust them, and not just trust them, I trust God.
Amen.
To keep them in the right path. So I guess that's, and then the other things, we are very happy together.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I think we kind of influence each other or encourage each other.
Yeah, just in the interactions, I see you guys have a wonderful relationship. You know, you know what's interesting is, you know, for Asians, you all work in the arts in some ways. Now, for Asians, for the most part, you know, arts are not considered a very practical career, right? Now, when your daughter said, "I want to go into filmmaking, I want to go into fashion design," were you guys ever concerned, or did you ever kind of maybe you want to be a doctor or a lawyer?
No, I never expect them to be doctor or lawyer because their math was not so good.
The truth comes out. Okay.
And so, so I see them have the artistic talent in them, and also the father is more or less in the artistic career. So I think as long as they are happy, and as long as they are not naughty enough, so I think they can. It's their life.
Okay.
So I have no objection. But I have to admit, when I first heard my daughter, Bertha, said, I'm going to the film industry, I said, I never know anything about film industry.
Yeah.
Except on the newspaper, there's always a page of entertainment.
Right.
And there are always the kind of, gossip of the entertainers.
Right.
So I don't want her got into that.
Yeah.
But I think she said one thing. I asked her, why do you want to go to that discipline? And she said, people of today, they don't enjoy it. They don't read very much. So they don't read like her parents.
Right.
So the best thing to share with the people is that through media.
Yeah.
So that minute I knew she was not going for a glamorous future.
Not for the fame or the fortune.
Right. So she was actually trying to communicate with the media.
That's beautiful.
And then and also both of them are Christians.
Yes.
So they know the true value of life.
Yeah.
So I felt comfortable.
That's beautiful. Yeah. So Bertha, what inspired you to go into filmmaking? I mean, where was, growing up, you lived in the States and you moved back to Taiwan, growing up in Taiwan. I mean, where did that idea, I want to get into filmmaking?
I think because growing up I had so many different interests. So when we first moved from the States to Taiwan, because at the time Taiwan is under martial law and it was mandatory education, and it was very, I felt so ill-adjusted coming from the idyllic American suburban life to this, and the schools were so regimental. And so I actually would escape into my own fantasy world by drawing comic books.
Oh, wow.
And so I drew books and books of my own ideal world of comics. And then in middle school, I started writing music and playing rock and roll. And then, but I also was always interested in psychology and observing human behavior, and also because of switching so many cultures and schools, that I had to develop a skill that was about adapting quickly and reading the room in a very fast amount of time to see, how to communicate in the different ways that people can receive and in these different environments. And so once I was in college, I was never super academic, unlike the rest of my family. I always did just enough to get by in school, but I never truly excelled in academics. And so I couldn't really decide in college what I wanted to do. But then I realized a friend of mine took me to a film course, and then I realized that it's like a blank canvas, and everything that I was interested in, psychology, human behavior, cinematography, photography, the arts, music, and visual arts, everything you can just pile into the frame. And nothing was a waste of time. It was all enriching the content. And so I realized, I think this is what I want to do. this is what combines all of my interests, but also all of my strengths.
Now, in your journey as a filmmaker, was there ever a point where you're like, maybe this is not for me, maybe I should just
every other day.
So, I mean, how do you deal with that?
Every Monday, Thursday.
So how do you kind of, how do you encourage yourself, or how do you continue to move forward when you have those thoughts?
That's a great question. I think in the last 10, 12 years, that's when I truly came to discover my own faith and my own personal relationship with God. And so it really has not been about what do I want and what do I want to do and what do I want to get out of my career or my life. But it really is whenever I just felt wavering to just come back to God and say, look, I'll do whatever you want me to do, go wherever you want me to go, just make it really clear and obvious to me. And so I think whenever I start feeling discouraged or lost or confused, it really is just, what's the next right thing? What has God put on my plate for today? Just focus on completing that and doing the best to my abilities with what He has assigned for that specific day, and then figure out the next step, and then figure out the next step. So then it's not just this big overwhelming, my career, am I doing the right thing, am I in the right field? But it really is just, what does God want me to do today? Let me just get that done.
I hear you. Yeah, because as an actor, a lot of times it's just like, okay, where do I go? What do I do? And I think I was going to ask you, where do you get your ideas, or how do you decide what projects to work on? But I think you answered that. It's just through prayer and through talking to God.
Yeah, and figuring out for myself what are my own non-negotiables to take that next step.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, and Bernice, you have your own career in fashion design, and same thing. I mean, I heard actually that you studied to be an architect, and then you became a fashion, and that's kind of a big jump. How did that happen?
I always liked both. In fact, I've always loved both. And as a child, I used to draw buildings or clothes. Okay. And I made models of all sorts of different things and cut and sew clothes. Right. And so my own room, which I was fortunate that my parents had given me the freedom to do whatever I wanted in the room, was effectively a tiny workshop studio of absolutely all sorts of materials and models, and I could design my own furniture and choose my own color of the walls and just cause havoc in it. So to me, using making as part of the creative process and thinking and observation and expression was always a part of how I experienced the world. So whatever I saw, whether it was our parents taking us to Europe and traveling around to different cathedrals or palaces, I would draw it on my sketchbook, or whatever I saw in terms of, or picked up in the bin, whether it's scrap bins for like pieces of fabric or clothes that were too small, or a swimming costume that lost elasticity, or boxes after chocolates were eaten. I would always think about how to make them into something else, and how to make use of all these different materials and give them another life. So actually for me, the cross between architecture and fashion is not a wild gap. It's really using different materials. Some of the materials are stiff, other materials are soft. And so studying architecture was definitely what I wanted to do, because I was really into history and also cities. And I thought that as a degree would be much more interesting and enriching for me. But as soon as I finished architecture, I really wanted to work in fashion to understand what the actual comparison was. So shortly after, as soon as I finished the degree and the 1-year training in an architectural office, which was mandatory, I dived in to get a job in fashion. And
I mean, because it's interesting, in English we use the word construction or construct in actually both fashion and architecture. Right? You construct buildings and you also construct clothes, right? And you were mentioning earlier how you would find scraps in like the trash can and all those things and put it, I mean, that kind of goes into what you do now with sustainable fashion, right? Can you explain like what is sustainable fashion? How did you get into it?
Sustainable fashion or sustainability really is not a rocket science. It's also not just a sort of abstract concept or virtue. It's really being accountable for where everything comes from and where everything goes to, and hopefully along the way of human and businesses and commerce, processing everything, creating as little damage and depletion to the environment and to the society and to people as possible. And I think nowadays, the whole world has evolved in such a fast pace, and particularly since digital transition, we've really forgotten where everything comes from.
Yes.
And we certainly don't care where everything goes to.
Yeah.
And so that is how this massive kind of depletion of the environmental natural resources and the massive waste that is created, which stuff that we throw away don't go away.
Yeah.
They stay on the planet, in the air, in the soil, in the sea, etc. So yes, really, to me, sustainable fashion is a means to really reconsider what the true values are for people, what is meaningful, and how are things created, and how we can really use every day what we wear and what we purchase and what we do as part of our creation care, and to really remember how to treasure what God has given us.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Yeah. Well, I feel like I could talk to you guys for hours. Unfortunately, we don't have that much time, but thank you all for being here and sharing your stories. I mean, I have to say, you have raised some amazing people, and I'm so...
Both of us.
Yes, both of you have raised some amazing people.
And they're both amazing.
And you guys are both amazing people as well, and I am so privileged to know you guys and to kind of have this time to talk with you guys and to learn from you guys. So thank you so much for your time, and hope you guys learned something today. And we hope that we can continue to be influences in this world and continue to use the things that God has given us to be able to make this world a better place. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Thanks so much, Campbell.